君を月に連れて行くよ。約束する。
Cyberpunk Edgerunners is finally here, and after the abysmal launch of Cyberpunk 2077 last year... Holy shit, that was 2 years ago. After the dismal launch of Cyberpunk 2077, I've personally grown kind of stagnant on Cyberpunk in general. However, this new anime by Studio Trigger might just change my mind. Studio Trigger are known for masterpieces such as Turning Girls, Hackadol, and Yunyaku Niju Renpai Girl. I have no idea what these are. Also, they made SSS Gridman, Kill la Kill, and my personal favorite, Lolly Potter in the Chamber of Perverts, so it's not a bad studio. But it's also produced by Netflix. I don't want to go too far into it, but Netflix producing something of quality is, that's rare. However, instead of boring you with my rhetoric on how Netflix is terrible, let's figure out whether Cyberpunk is worth watching. I completely screwed up my own title for this video. The series starts off with a bang, showing a roided up, or rather chromed up, beefcake going insane and slaughtering officers left and right. As the transhuman monstrosity wipes the floor with the popo, they call in the big guns, the Max Tac. These guys are specially trained and equipped to deal with these kind of incidents. Cyber psychos are one of the many issues Night City has, and this first episode will continue to show us just that. It turns out that David, or simply D, was enjoying some good old-fashioned brain dance software that he picked up off the street. What is a brain dance? I guess just a VR headset, but instead of crappy gimmick games, it's actually something pretty cool, I guess. I think. David lives with his mother, who is barely scraping by, as you can tell, by the state of their apartment. This is because, as we will soon see, David's mother is paying for his tuition at Arasaka Academy. The next scene is a montage showing just how much of a shithole this part of Night City is. After arriving to class, David explodes everyone's headsets. This is a result of faulty hacking software. But it's fine, because all those other kids were just a bunch of cunts. But it's also not fine because he has to pay for all of that, with money he doesn't have. On the way home, him and his mother argue about the condition they're in. This part in particular I found pretty brutal. We grow up into a world where our parents try their hardest to give us a good life and give us a great future, but those are futures that we know we can't have, or they're futures that we blatantly don't want. College is a scam. It's not even personal failings, it's circumstances of reality. This heart-wrenching moment comes to an abrupt end when some gang members try to kill some corpo cunt in a nearby limo. In the ensuing chaos, David's mother crashes the car like the woman she is. David wakes up to see the trauma team arriving on the scene. What first appears to be hope is quickly stomped out by another unfortunate reality of Cyberpunk. If you don't have the eddies, you ain't worth shit. Kinda like real life. After passing out, we find his mother is in stable condition, and he has 3 days to make the payment. So he goes home and searches around for cash and things to sell when he comes across some high-quality looking cyberware, which he then tries to sell, but gets lowballed. The next day, David heads back to class, but is first accosted by 3 yuppies who start giving him shit. This quickly escalates into a fistfight where the gayest looking of the 3 pummels him thanks to his fancy rich kid cyberware. After that, he gets the news that his mother died, because life blows and the plan didn't cover continued support. We then get treated to the second montage of the episode, this time of David going back home carrying the ashes of his deceased mother. This scene culminates into an antagonizing phone call from that bitch-ass rich kid that beat him up from before. The final scene of this episode is of David bursting into the Ripper Doc's office, requesting to get that fancy-ass cyberware implanted into his beautiful supple back. Episode 1 took a while to grow on me. In the past, I've complained about using montages frequently, however, in this case, I feel they were executed well. The first one shows us how rancid this universe is, and the second one hits those heartstrings just right. This is only further boosted by the excellent background scenery and music direction. While those things are important, the story didn't really draw me in. That is, until the three rich kids showed up. That fruity-looking kid beating the crap out of David made me dislike him. Also, his hair didn't help at all either. But when he made that call to David at the end of the episode, that made me want to see David paint the fucking city red with that silver spoon having ass. Episode 2 starts out fast, continuing the previous visit to the Ripper Doc, which shows us exactly how nasty getting cybernetic implants really is. I, for one, really appreciate the fact that they went out of their way to show us that this isn't exactly a pleasant procedure. Most media these days with transhuman themes tends to gloss around this little issue. Next is easily my favorite part of the episode, and that's because David goes to school and beats the shit out of that rich prick. Now, personally, I would have preferred that he went Columbine 2077 on his bitch ass, but I'll take what I can get. That bitch crying was beautiful. Obviously, it goes without saying that David will no longer be attending Arasaka Academy. The prick's dad sees a video of David beating the shit out of his son, and honestly, I'd want to see my son beat up too, if he had that haircut and voice. Please note that I do not have any kids, nor do I ever plan on having any kids. If you are my parents, I guess I do apologize, but you brought this on yourself. I'm not continuing this genetic cesspool. Also, if you happen to be any of my extended family that are watching this, I really hope you forget this by Thanksgiving. The Corpos talk about picking up David for experimentation using something called the product. What is the product? Probably just some vegan food. I know eating that shit would make me go bonkers too. David goes on a train for some reason, where he notices my newest waifu, Lucy, stealing chips from other losers. He notices her grab one of his and stops it from happening. The two get into an argument, but ultimately decide to team up with each other. All they do is just steal stuff from people on the train. This part just shows off a bunch of cool animation, but otherwise there isn't much to say. After the job, David and Lucy are talking when David gets a nosebleed. No, not because of the booba, but because he's a dumbass. Apparently, David forgot to take his post-op drugs, and then proceeds to wind up in an ambulance. Unfortunately, that ambulance has a less than altruistic doctor aboard. She tries to take David's cyberware, but fails quite miserably if I'm honest with you. After the doctor fails to uphold the Hippocratic Oath, Lucy and David go to the doctor to get David's post-op drugs that he should have got before. Later, at Lucy's apartment, the two have a deep discussion about dreams. No, not Dreams the Minecraft speedrunning cheater. I can never get off. Dreams, the hopes and aspirations kind. Lucy wants to go to the moon, and I personally can't blame her. I want to get off this rock too. I dislike everyone around me. Also, she shows David a really cool brain dance that has to do with the moon. Things seem to be finally looking up for David 24 hours after his mother's death, until he gets woken up by a turboed up gangster. Looks like Lucy sold him out. Episode 2 kicks ass right off the bat. I'm already invested in the series like none other that I've watched for an episode of Is It Worth Watching. That said, I am a bit worried that Lucy is going to become a Seidodere. I'm not really a fan of those in any media. After all, that would be a pretty bad look for my newest waifu. Right from the get-go, the third episode introduces us to 3 more characters. Barrett, weird-looking arms guy, and blonde Zarya. Turns out that fancy gear that David copped from his dead mom was Barrett's. Now he's looking to collect. Also, it turns out that David's mother was supplying these guys. Begrudgingly, Barrett allows David to prove himself in order to pay back the loan for his sexy new spine. The following day, David meets the crew for the gig. The plan is simple. He's gonna swipe some data from a drunk Arasaka agent. Unfortunately, it's not that simple, and things don't go quite as planned when the agent gets called in the middle of the data retrieval. David is then instructed to get the info from the car itself, whilst a weird lolly girl distracts the buff agent in a totally legal and not weird way. Things get worse when the lolly fails to hold the Arasaka agent long enough. Both David and Lucy are trapped in the car, so with no other options, David learns to drive. Shortly after the road test begins, 2 gang members on motorcycles show up to kill them, but David proceeds to pull off some cool anime moves and gets away from them. Well, actually, one of them winds up as a roadside flapjack, but it's Cyberpunk. What the hell do you expect?
He needs some milk!
Finally, the 2 arrive at the meeting spot, when who should show up but the one motorcycle guy who wasn't painted all over the street. A short fight ensues, and it's a pretty flashy one. I like flashy. Right as the blue-haired punk is about to send David to see his mommy, Barrett shows up and turns the man into a fine pink mist. David is at a party where him and his squad are celebrating the gig's success. Big man Barrett gives solid advice to Little D when some jackass in a limo shows up. Dude, I can't get over this guy's choice in cyberware. Like, seriously, we live in the golden age of transhumanism, and this guy is really gonna choose to become the personification of 4 eyes. After the bickering between the 2 is resolved, there's some more chatter, and we learn the lolly's name. I forgot the name because lollies make me feel uncomfortable. Finally, the episode ends with David telling the Arasaka Academy principal to eat a fat bag of dicks. Oh yeah, they've been trying to get a hold of him this whole time, but I kind of forgot to mention it. My bad. And that concludes episode 3 of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I gotta say, this is my favorite series that I've done for this show thus far. I'll be honest, while the animation is decent throughout most of the series, you can see some cut corners here and there. But I'll give it a pass since the other aspects more than make up for it. The OST, whilst being comprised of many of the songs found within Cyberpunk 2077, is still astounding. Within the first 2 episodes, I was already invested in these characters. This is how you tell a story. This is how you make an anime. And finally, to answer the question, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, is it worth watching? You're damn right it is. I almost want to go back and play Cyberpunk 2077 again.